going to invite Debbie and Jess to come forward and share the story of the second mission story. But before I do that, before we get into that, we have some guests. I'm not sure. Do you know that there's coloring books and crayons and all kinds of stuff up here? And if you want to run around and play, you're free to do so.
There's also some bead bracelets. If you want to make a bracelet out of beads, there's that stuff here too.
Yeah, and that goes for the adults too, you know. No run on them. The kids get them first, but, you know, if we're really that boring, we don't mind. Where's Jazz? I'm not going to try and attempt to show pictures at this point on the thing, hooking this back up to that, but what we are going to do is we have downstairs a setup that has something in the neighborhood of 6,000 slides. It shows the work that was done in Swazidand early this year, and but we're going to tell you about it. Go.
Okay. Jess hasn't had as much time to prepare, and she's going on to no sleep. So I'll invite her to share when she feels ready, and you just give me a nudge. I got up off the floor, which is where women are in Swaziland, is on the ground, but women also have things to say there, and it's just quietly in the background, but they do influence what happens there. It's interesting because in that hymn, there's a line that says, "May we serve as you intend," and the lesson I learned was about that. When I was telling people that I was going to Mapawane, Swaziland, they said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, we're going to be building a school, church, complex. It's going to be used for a lot of different things. And I'm going to be doing programs with the kids," which, of course, is my favorite thing. And then we would joke about how many cinder blocks I could carry before I collapsed in the dust. So that was pretty much what we talked about beforehand. So when our team went, we were very focused on this building we were going to work on with cinder blocks and cement. And we didn't know exactly how it was all going to work out, and we knew we were going to need a bit of local help, but that's where we were focused, the building. And we got there, and we had a day to kind of make it all the way to Mapanwani and see the place on the mountain. And there was a little building that was being used as a school. It actually belonged to one of the ministers there. It was being used as a school until a school could be built. And it was pretty shabby looking, but kids were coming. This was a preschool, and then there were older kids that went to other schools and then appeared in the afternoon. Anyway, we went out to the building site, and they were already building. They had most of the foundation already built of cement block. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were mixing cement on the ground in what they call a volcano, which is they had 3 different kinds of dirt, I think, plus cement, and what little bits of water they could spare to make it. And what you would do is put rings of the dirt and cement on and gradually mix them. You'd mix them towards the center, and then you'd mix them towards the outside, and that was the volcano shape. Anyway, they're working away on it, and they had another temporary wooden building already with supporting poles up, and we thought, whoops, did we arrive late? What happened? Because we really thought we were going to go in there and build something for these people who couldn't build it for themselves. Well, they darn well could build it for themselves. And what we discovered was a little church. It was a little church full of people just like the people here that wanted to grow. And they wanted to provide the best they could for their kids, and they wanted a future. And the way to that future was to give education, to develop local industries so that people could earn enough to live. And they were going to accomplish this through the building of this building together. The other thing they were building is community. And so that took us back a little bit. It took us a couple days to realize that maybe wasn't where we were needed. And we all carried some cinder blocks and unloaded them from trucks, right? Some of us tried loading them on our heads, and that was only briefly.
The women there were carrying 2 on their heads and then carry 1.
Yeah,
They're very strong women.
very powerful women.
The women would do all this trafficking the blocks to the different places while the
And
men
the-
actually built.
Yeah, or watched.
Yeah. So it was already happening, and we thought, oh my goodness, we've come here to save all these people, and they're already saving themselves. What are we going to do? And then things started to develop, and we started to get close to these people. They were so kind to us. We could not pick up their language. We couldn't even get past the first 3 things in the greeting. We would get to part of it. We would get to the sabone and the yabo, and then the next line I never got. And the kids would give me their names, and I'd try to say them, and they'd laugh and laugh. We were hopeless at that stuff, but they never made us feel that way. They always made us feel welcome. They were kind to us. They giggled, but they were never mean. Very, very joyful people, despite the fact that they didn't have a lot. And that was another thing that surprised me. Before we went there, I heard of something called Swazi time. And what I heard was, actually, I couldn't find out much ahead of time, but from business sites, I heard that if you make an appointment with a Swazi person, they might come on time, they might come several hours late, they might not turn up at all, they might come next week, so don't count on anything to happen exactly when you think it's going to. And so I thought, okay, all right, I get that. Well, it's a whole way of life there. They look at things differently than we do. We went there to do a project. We had a plan, and there was a building plan. We thought, okay, we got the building plan, we got the materials, we're going to go there, we're going to build the building, we're going to see the kids, we're going to learn a little bit and take it back. Well, the building was gone. But we learned something else. We learned that there can be a different way of seeing the world, and a different way for a church to see the world. And, we said we went there to learn, but really we thought we were going to teach, right? That's in our big egos, we thought we were going to teach them. They taught us so much. I couldn't even begin to tell you what they taught us. But more recently, the thing that is in my mind is that they taught us the difference between a plan and a vision. And that, for me, is so powerful. They were living day to day. They had their plan for the building, but that was something that would happen when it happened. It wasn't their whole life. They were living day to day, and whatever needed to be done that day was done that day. And if you had a sheet of aluminum, you would put it on the roof, and if you didn't have a sheet of aluminum, you'd do something else. And I just was very moved by that. I feel very moved by that, and I feel that that's something that we can learn. Swazi time isn't entirely about them being unreliable. That's our Western view. What they were is people, a little church with a vision of what could happen, and instead of saying, we got a project, we're going to make it happen, it's going to be done by this date, forget the dates. What they saw instead was the potential for something good to happen. And they let it unfold, they watched it unfold, and they made us a part of it, and it was so touching. They made us part of their family, and I will carry that my whole life. Just kind of keep that in your mind when you're talking about going somewhere far away, that respect for what the people in different places are doing, respect for the way they see the world, can give us insights into what we do here too. So that was the most powerful thing for me.
Debbie said that they made us a part of the family. What we're hanging on the pulpit today is my acknowledgement that I am a part of their family. What we discovered there was that part of the Swazi time thing is that it's relationships that matter. And they would rather spend time getting to know us than watching us build a building for them. At the end of our time there, they made a presentation to what the other people who had traveled with us from South Africa said they had never seen done. But this is actually the traditional tribal wrap of a Swazi male warrior. and they presented it to me, and each one of the group was presented with the appropriate wrap. Our team leader, Brock, who some of you have met, was given the chief's wrap, and the women were all given the appropriate wraps for women of the tribe. And we found out that what we were being given was we were being given membership in the tribe. Because we had not just worked with them, we had related with them. Because what I learned over there was that we went to do mission. What do you do when you go to mission? That's rich North Americans going someplace, handing out good work to other people and coming home and patting ourselves on the back for all that we could do. Well, we didn't found many hands missions to do that. We found many hands missions to actually get to know people and to have all of us, everyone here, who all contributed, the dolls and the gifts and the funding and the building materials and all the stuff that was made possible by the yard sales and all the stuff that you did here. We went over there and took that over there, not just so to throw our wealth on someone else and make them feel impoverished, but to help build connections in our world. And we got to these people, and they were showing us how to do it. How to do it. And it was about the connection. So I discovered that my mission wasn't to go there. My mission was to stand here and tell you about them. We went to a village that's up in the mountains of the Lumbomba Mountains on the eastern edge, or the eastern edge of Africa, southern Africa. They have been in a 10-year drought. 10 years. Like no water. The only water course in the village that we were in was a muddy, really slimy stream that was filled with cholera and typhoid. And we were working with families that were living in mud round huts. That's what they live in, 10 to an 8x8 hut. For some of the households, the head of the household was 13 years of age because everyone else was dead. And there's probably more dust on the floor here, and that's no reflection on Dell or anybody else, because this floor I know has only been painted for a couple of weeks. It's been well kept clean, but there's probably more dust on the floor here than there is on their dirt floors of their homes. Cleanest, like people wear white shirts, and I'm thinking, I couldn't wear a white shirt and walk across my living room and keep it that white. But they do. They have great pride in who they are and what they are. Showing some of the children a picture of my children. And one little boy leans over and he says, "Oh, can I be his friend?" And then it hit me. They're about the relationships. They're about how people can relate and build life together. And they have no sense of poverty. It's interesting, Doris, because you said your people were in a place where they had seen lots of wealth of the low mainlanders and knew they were poor. We were amongst the people who had, I got to tell you, there's more stuff in one small cupboard in my home than there would have been in 3 households there. And these people have no sense of poverty, thought they were well off, and wanted to share it all with us. Because they had so much. We come back to a world where people are complaining and angry and wanting more and wishing the paycheck was bigger and that the tax didn't take so much and all this stuff. And we come from a people who had less than nothing and were rich because they had each other. Swazi time is about the relationships. It's about making people a part of the tribe. It's about being at one and at peace. And very profound faith in all these people. Not just traditional Christian faith, just faith in life. Faith in that we will get through this and do it. Even the morning we went to the school that you had the reading from, the morning that we arrived at the school, 2 of the children had been orphaned that morning. And there was no sense, apart from the sadness of the death, that they were hopeless. They would survive.
And you also found that you couldn't tell
Microphone.
which kids belonged with which mom or dad because they all helped each other. It was all a group effort. Thank
life in a village.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes, I'll put it on Jack.
And what we know is children are fantastic. They are perfect. Because we're all that free, we just pretend we're not. And these kids had it, and this place had it. And so Swaziland, what we were doing there and what we will continue to do there, we will hope in the future, we still have an ongoing project there to put water, clean water into this village. It's happening later this year, to provide some sense of electricity. The center that we were working on, the one building is finished, and there will be a sewing center where women will learn to sew and make some income. There will be a feeding center for children who will get good quality food every day, and that they won't be dying young. And then we'll go from there. But if mission works, whether it's to Bokamanu, whether it's to Panjwani or Mafanjwani, whether it's to Carayivo, wherever our trips have gone, the Guatemalan trips and the Nicaraguan trips and all the ones that we've done with the many hands side of our church life, what they will continue to do is to remind us that in a world where half of us or most of us live in fear, and we concentrate on the negatives and the violence and the have-nots, then we will continue to be reminded that when many people work together in small ways, a great world is being built. This is what Jesus called his disciples to do. We'd like to close this side of the presentation.
Can I just say something?
Oh, yeah.
And instead of the pat on the back, this is what we have on our backs.
Oh, yes. We don't know if you can read it, but these are the names of the people with whom we worked. We're wearing their clothes and they're wearing ours.